Storytime about how my date asked me to pay for half of the smoothie we shared. Should I be going on the second date with this guy? Disclaimer, this is not my storytime, it's send me on Instagram. So I met this guy on Tinder, of course. We hit it off right away through text message, and I thought that it was sus because he was too nice, but I decided to give him a chance. We're both really into fitness, so we decided to go on a hike. Because we live in LA and everyone does the same thing, so why not? But before the hike, he asked me if I wanted to get smoothies. I said of course because I love smoothies. I told him I didn't really want a full smoothie, so I asked him if we could share and he said yes. We got a banana peanut butter smoothie. The total came out to $8.45. In my mind, I thought he was totally happy paying for it. We drank the damn smoothie while we were hiking and I thought everything was fine. We had great conversation and the sexual tension between us, oh my god. You could literally cut through it with a knife. As we finish up the hike, he says, "Do you mind Venmoing me for half of the smoothie?" I laughed because I thought it was actually a joke. Then he says, "Why are you laughing?" And I said, "Oh, are you serious?" And he said yes. We stared at each other for about 10 seconds. So I pull out my phone and send him $4.
Am I the asshole for switching from non-dairy to dairy milk and inadvertently making my flatmate shit herself in an interview? I'm not lactose intolerant. I buy hazelnut milk because I like to have hazelnut syrup in my coffee, and adding hazelnut milk makes it even more nutty. My flatmate is severely lactose intolerant though, and has been drinking my milk ever since she moved in a few months ago. I don't have an issue sharing milk with her, but the issue is that she drinks so much of it all day, every day, that I'll get a single cup of coffee out of an entire carton. Sometimes she'll drink the entire carton before I even had a single drink. And then she never replaces it or refunds me or even acknowledges that it wasn't hers to drink. At some point, she stopped buying her own milk and I was having to buy new milk daily. I asked her many times why she was drinking my milk and said that if she...
Am I wrong for refusing to buy my husband an expensive car even though I have the money? My husband, male 35, and I, female 30, have been married for the past 10 years and we have 5 amazing daughters together. Because of that, I dropped out of college and have been a stay-at-home mom for the past 10 years when we had our eldest daughter. My husband is a breadwinner and I take care of all the chores and childcare. While my husband earns quite a bit of money, which allows us to live comfortably, he is also obsessed with budgeting, thus I typically only have enough for household expenses. For the past 5 years, I have been working on a series of books. I've been writing everywhere I could. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, and while I sacrifice a lot of sleep, I have managed to finish my series, unbeknown to my husband. I kept it a secret because he always considered it a waste of time. It was tough, but I managed to get an agent and was incredibly lucky to get a deal and have my series published. I was ecstatic. And when they told me how big my advance would be, I almost fainted. It's much more than I expected for a first-time deal. It's in the higher 5 digits.
I just found out my boyfriend has a freaking wife. Disclaimer, is not my story time, I sent me on Instagram. Every time I'd ask to go over to his place, he would say no. First off, he told me that he had a terrible roommate, that his roommate was noisy and really dirty and the apartment stank. So for that reason, he didn't want me to come over. And of course I said, yeah, that's fine. Here's the 4th red flag that I ignored. He would ask to come over to my apartment at odd hours. Sometimes he wanted to come over at 3 in the morning. Sometimes he wanted to come over super early. And other times he wanted to come over really late. Because I have a 9-to-5 job, I kept saying no. I needed to get my beauty sleep, please. But even if I said no, he would still come over. Here's the 5th red flag. He would come over to my apartment and instantly fall asleep on the couch. I was always asking him why he was so tired. And he would just say that it was too much work. Well, we've been dating now for 2 months. A few days ago, I started getting suspicious of the situation. So I showed up to his apartment. But he didn't live there. It was an office building. I asked him to come over and I confronted him. That's when he confessed that he is married. And that he's been married for 10 years. But he says that his wife is a nightmare and that he wants to divorce her. What should I do? I just found out my boyfriend has a freaking wife. Disclaimer, is not my story time, I sent me on Instagram. For our first date, we went to have breakfast 40 minutes away from where we both lived. Again, this was another red flag I ignored. During the breakfast, he was on his phone the entire time. And I called him out on it. I asked him why he invited me to breakfast if he was going to be on his phone all day. That's when he made up this whole sob story about how hard his work life was. How he was always stuck to his phone answering emails and text messages from his boss. And of course I believed it. I mean, I didn't know this guy from anything. After that, he put his phone down and I realized he was the most amazing man I had ever met. A man that can make me laugh is really important to me. And we laughed the entire time. We were telling each other jokes. We talked about family and values. We talked about our favorite foods, countries we wanted to go to, places we had been to. It was the perfect date. We even loved the same type of music, and our favorite movie was the same. So as you can imagine, I completely fell head over heels for this man. But the red flags continued. A week after our first date, he asked me to be his girlfriend. Did I say yes? Of course I did. But this was just another red flag. He began love bombing me and always wanted to be with me. But he never invited me over to his place. Part 3 is up.
Chelsea is back finally, and so am I after a little break. This was her first appointment after giving birth. She came in with very grown out nails, 2 of which were broken. She's also been biting and picking at the sides of her skin due to stress. We decided her nails needed to be completely cut down, and I promised I'd take care of her very damaged skin around her nails. For this, I used a tornado bit, which has a spiral grit that helps exfoliate that rougher skin. I cannot imagine how life-changing it is being a new mom, and from these nails I can tell it's definitely not easy. She said all the research she did went out the window, and now she's taking it day by day, and she told me she barely sleeps, but she said after having her little boy she feels like a new person and her old life and worries kind of disappeared. I also had to straighten out some crooked nails and use gel extensions on 2 broken nails. Back to some tea on her marriage. To recap, she got married to her hubby who divorced his ex-wife for her, and then they eloped and now had a baby. There was also drama with his ex-wife, but you can watch my previous videos for that. They worked it out. These are her very rushed fall nails because the baby was being fussy outside with her husband, and I even got to meet the little guy from a distance. Look at his little feet. Louisa quit her job. Yep, she came into her appointment today, and that's the first thing she told me. If you haven't watched her other videos, Louisa is a housekeeper and worked at a busy hotel chain. She said she couldn't take it anymore, but what happened last week was her last straw. A lot of bachelor and bachelorette party groups stay at the hotel, and usually they're okay, but this case was a little different. She had a bachelor party of 15 guys, 3 in each room. They left their rooms a complete mess, throw up and blood on the carpet, used condoms under the bed, cigarettes and joints literally on the floor, and ash spilled around the carpet. But that wasn't even the worst part. The very last night, the guys got so drunk they couldn't make it to their rooms, so they all went to the lobby bathroom and threw up in the urinals. Keep in mind, the urinals cannot flush down throw up. But even after working there for years and having a fairly good ranking, she was still forced to clean them. She said no amount of money will get her to go back. She's starting her own cleaning business with a few of her friends that are also housekeepers. She chose a color she never chose before to represent new beginnings and the eyes to bring some good luck. Very pregnant Chelsea is back, and I seriously did not realize how far along she was. She literally came to me about to pop and even said she was having contractions. Her husband actually came with her this time to drop her off and even asked me to speed it up because they think the baby's coming early. Mind you, this was my first time meeting him, and he doesn't know I know what I know, but he was super nice and I respected his wishes. During the appointment, she got a call from her mom who was freaking out about the contractions, and Chelsea literally said we can figure it out after I get my nails done. I wish I recorded it, but anyway, she wanted something short and easy, so we went for the Hailey Bieber nails, of course. I used the milky base to speed up the process and applied a chrome powder on top. And little update on her marriage tea, they worked it out, especially for the baby. That's all she said about that. She was cranky, which was understandable. She gave birth a week later, and look at the video she sent me.
Watch me do my crusty dusty nails while I tell you a story time. Before I get into the story time, I want to let you know that I'm launching this Easter bundle March 25th at 5 p.m. Eastern time. It includes these 5 beautiful pastel colors I'll be using throughout this video. So with that being said, let's get into the story time. As you all know, I used to take clients about 2 years ago. I had this one client, let's name her Bella. Bella would always ask me if she can film the whole process of me doing her nails, and of course I had no problem with that. She told me it was for her YouTube channel that she's gonna start soon. Me being supportive, I told her to record whenever, like I don't care. So one day Bella asked me if she can record my nail room, and of course I said sure. I thought it would be a cute clip in the video. I didn't really think much of it, but then I checked Bella's story like a week later. Bella posted that she's starting to do nails, and on her next story she posts her nail room, which looks identical to mine. The funny thing is she never started that YouTube channel, and she was just recording to copy everything I have. Should I be flattered, or is that creepy?
Story time on how a recent client tried to fight me. A couple months ago, I started taking clients again. I posted on Facebook that I was doing these $40 sets, any length, any design, just to get started. My Facebook friends were sharing my posts, so a lot of new people started sending in friend requests. I added all of them back and started booking. One girl hit me up, hyping up my work, saying she really wanted to book with me. She sent me the design she wanted and we set an appointment. So the day of her appointment, she came right on time, but I noticed she was wearing sweatpants and a sweatshirt. It was really hot outside, but I figured she wanted to be comfy, so I didn't think too much of it. So I started her set, and as I was putting the tips on, she started asking me a lot of questions about myself. I'm not really the type to tell all my business, but I figured she was just trying to make some conversation. I told her about my other job, my son, and my boyfriend. Out of all the things I told her, she seemed really interested in my boyfriend. She asked how we met, how long we've been together, and if we had any issues, really just being nosy. So I tried to change the subject by asking her about her own relationship. She tells me her and her boyfriend broke up like 2 months ago because he cheated on her with a slut. She went on saying that this girl was texting her man while they were together and was acting like she didn't even know that he had a girlfriend. I just shook my head in disappointment, but I kept to myself. She said the girl was just a broke hoe looking for a come up, but she was going to handle all of that soon. I could tell her hands were getting kind of tense while I was laying the acrylic, so I tried to change the conversation and, ask her about her job, but she just kept going on talking about that girl. She told me she was going to run up on this girl, drag her, and get her man back. Well, he doesn't seem like much of a prize, I said, without even thinking. She snatched her hand away as I was doing her top coat and looked pissed off. I figured it was because of what I said, so I apologized and she put her hand back under the UV lamp to dry. I had no idea where all of this tension was coming from, but I was ready to go ahead and finish up this set because I was starting to get uncomfortable. I top coated the rest of her nails, and just as she was putting her hand under the UV lamp, I heard someone running up to my front door. The door unlocked and my boyfriend came running in looking panicked. I asked him what was wrong. He looked right at my client and said, "You need to get out, now." Shocked, I looked at her and I looked at him, confused with how they even knew each other. "What are you doing here?" he asked her. She stood up, looked at me and said, "So this is the bitch you were cheating with, huh?" My jaw dropped. There's no way this girl was sitting here talking about me the whole time. I had no idea he even had a girlfriend when we started dating. So it didn't even cross my mind that she was talking about me. She knocked all the supplies off my desk, looked at me and said, "Get up, now." Part 2 posting right now.
It's been a full year since I've heard from this lovely client. If you remember from my previous video, she came to me once asking to do a basic manicure with regular polish. She's been painting her own nails her whole life, but ever since she was diagnosed with arthritis, it's gotten more difficult. During this appointment, she said she still paints them on her own because it's relaxing for her. And ever since she lost her husband, that's something that puts her mind at ease and helps relieve any anxiety. But the one thing she's scared to touch are her cuticles. Her hands shake and she ends up cutting herself because her skin is very thin and sensitive. As you saw earlier, her skin sticks on top of her nail, which makes it very difficult to push back. She came to me hoping I'd help, and I'm so happy she did. I safely lifted that outgrown skin, which fully revealed her nail and gave her hands an entirely different look. She chose this beautiful red shimmer polish and told me she felt like a completely new person. Because she paints her own nails, I gave her a little pouch with some essentials.
My wife is dead. The best Christmas gift I could have gotten. At the beginning of 2022, I caught my wife having an affair with one of her exes. Our marriage wasn't perfect. I was not the perfect husband, I will admit, but I did my best. I put effort into the entire 5 years we were together. I put my all into the relationship. Her, I could not say the same. I was forced to confront the reality of who she truly was shortly after I caught her. She illegally evicted me from our shared home, lied to the police to try and get me arrested, tried to get me fired from my job, and tried to turn all of my friends against me. Some of these succeeded while others did not. She made my life a living hell since the day I asked her for the divorce and has planted her heels into the ground over our separation to try and drain all of my finances and emotional strength from me. The only upside is that we have no kids for her to use as weapons, but I soon found out that her policy of strict birth control with me did not extend to her suitor as he got her pregnant 5 months ago. I thought maybe this would help speed along the divorce, but it only railed her in efforts to destroy me. On Christmas Eve, my wife and her suitor went to a party where both of them got. So this couple comes in together to buy an engagement ring, and they had a budget of about $20,000, which is a lot for an engagement ring. But the ring that she happened to pick out was about $35,000, which is a lot of money. And she was really adamant about picking it, and he was kind of reserved, like, it is a lot of money. But she's like, no, if you love me, you'll buy it, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, you know what? You're gonna be my wife, the mother of my kids, whatever makes you happy. So after they finally decide, I pack it up for them. I'm like, here you go. Have a great marriage. Have a great life. Goodbye. About 3 weeks later, the fiance comes in, and I'm thinking she just wants to get the ring size or something. And she's like, can you guys take out the diamond and replace it with a cubic zirconium? Cubic zirconium is a very cheap substitute for a diamond. So I was like, yeah, we can do that, but just give us 2 or 3 days. So she leaves, and I call her fiance because I was like, oh, this is really suspicious. And he had no idea that she came into the shop or that she was coming in. So he calls me 2 days later, and he finds out that she was going to break up with him. She would have kept that diamond, and she would have given him the fake one. He would have returned it, and he would have gotten no money back. Talk about mess.